Welcome to Unsafe Space. I'm Carter Laren, and I'm joined by my co-host, as always, the bad mamma jamma, Carrie Smith. Carrie, say hello.
Hi, Carter.
Follow us, please, on YouTube. Subscribe to us on YouTube. We're trying to get some decent amount of subscribers. Everyone says they're surprised at how low our subscriber count is because they really like our content, hint, hint. So, help us out. Today, we're joined by Sal Mayweather. Sal describes himself as an agorist, cypherpunk, disintermediator, crypto-anarchist, and Rothbardian. He's the host of the Agora podcast. But what I like most about Sal is that he's a master of memes. Whenever I need to laugh at something that's going on, especially when my only alternative is to cry, I turn to his Twitter feed, and he never lets me down. Sal, thank you for joining us on Unsafe Space. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
I'm going to need some definitions for some of those.
I know this. We can start right away, Carrie, because I know you're going to need definitions. So go. Why don't you just start by asking for definitions, Carrie?
Crypto-anarchist.
Well, basically, kind of all those terms are basically synonyms, I guess, in a sense. Crypto-anarchy is basically just the idea. It's very closely related to cypherpunks. It's just the idea that we can use code and as a tool to free ourselves and our neighbors. So we look at things like Tor or the blockchain, and those are great examples of how effective code can be in using it to liberate ourselves.
So Tor, and now imagine you're talking to dummies, okay? Tor, let's explain this so that I understand it, which if I understand it, then I'm pretty sure our audience will, right? From what I understand, it's just a browser that's like a private hidden browser, right? Well, nobody can track you? Is that it?
More or less. I'm sure they could, if they want to, they'll find out what you're doing. But Tor uses encryption, and I'm not a computer guy, but what I can tell you is this: there's another podcast called The Agorist, and he has a whole episode on encryption. And if I understand what he's saying correctly, basically you have these onion sites that operate on the network, in the Tor network. So all of these .onion sites that you'll find, like the Alpha Bay or the Silk Road, on all these black market illicit sites, they're basically operating on a network underneath the regular internet. And I guess that's how they're able to, I think the military invented it, to be honest with you, but
the Navy, I think was it the Naval Surface Warfare Center, someone?
Yeah, I'm not a big computer kind of fellow, but it is an excellent tool for counter economics and agorists, as Ross Ulbricht has proven, obviously.
Yeah. And I think I'm not sure about the architecture of Tor, but my understanding was that it was something similar to BitTorrent, where there's actually like a support network that's kind of required to anonymize traffic, but I'm not totally sure. I haven't studied Tor.
Yeah, something like that. Like I said, my go-to on stuff like this and the technical aspects of agorism would be the Agorist. Follow him on Twitter. He's got a new show. It's pretty cool, and like I said, he goes in depth on all of those topics, much better than I ever could.
Yeah. Ironically, I was a cryptographer for 12 years, but I just never studied Tor. I don't know the Tor protocol, so I can't answer any questions.
Oh, okay. So you're the in-house expert then.
Not if I don't study. If I don't know the protocol, I'm pretty useless. I can tell you how it theoretically might work, but that doesn't mean that's true.
Okay.
So that's a crypto anarchist. Actually, can you describe what an agorist is?
Yeah, of course. It's basically, agorism is synonymous with counter economics. Basically, we believe that the best way, and the only way to free ourselves is by using free market principles to subvert or undermine state-imposed cartels or monopolies. Things like we use the blockchain to disrupt or disintermediate the Federal Reserve, or we use 3D printers to disintermediate the ATF and the parasites who work in that department, and so on and so forth. CNC milling machines would be another good example of how we kind of use technology to subvert the leeches.
So can you just describe, I assume Carrie actually knows this already, but our audience might not maybe just describe what the problem with the Fed is from a very high level perspective in fiat currency, and what you mean by like why have an alternate means of transacting outside of that system.
Well, the Federal Reserve is a cartel. It's a criminal cartel maintained in a compulsory fashion by the state, and they have a monopoly on money, on the printing money. Normally, this would be a function of the market, but they're robbing us through inflation. And of course, anytime you give somebody a monopoly, they're going to abuse that power. So what they do is they just print and print and print, and every time they want to, or they can't raise taxes, but they want to fund one of their genocides or their mass murdering sprees on the other side of the world, or one of their economically illiterate welfare programs. Instead of taxing us, what they do is they just print more money. So it's like you're still paying a tax. It's just that you don't see it coming out of your paycheck. It's hidden tax, I think, is what Ron Paul calls it. Yep. So we prefer things like basically anything that's not a Federal Reserve note. People say, "Oh, you're diehard into Bitcoin. What about gold?" I said, "Look, I don't care if people trade salt again. I don't care if they trade seashells. As long as we're not using the criminal notes of a banking cartel, I'm a happy camper." And of course, every time you transact in Bitcoin or silver or gold or salt or seashells, you're taking business away from the cartel. So that's why I'm a fan of alternative currencies.
So just so I understand, is fiat currency, that means it's not tied to, there's an unlimited number, right? Or supply?
So what it means is essentially it's just, it's money by fiat. So in other words, it's, they're just declaring this to be money. It has no, it would never be money in a normal market, a normal free market, because why would people trade pieces of paper around? It doesn't make any sense. Unless, of course, you're using actual receipts from a bank based on gold or silver deposits, but that's a different story. But fiat just means it's by declaration, money by declaration.
And maybe a lot of people don't know, the U.S. originally, I mean, I'm sure people have heard this, but there was a gold standard. It used to be that you could take your dollar and go and get a certain amount of gold in the dollar in exchange for this. And it was backed, at least it was backed. It was still a monopoly owned by the state, but it was backed by something. It meant something. So that was really a receipt. You used the word receipt, right? That was a receipt for something that was stored, that you go to the government and say, "I want my silver," or "I want my gold. Here, give it to me." And they would give it to you. And the problem with that is it limits all the things that Sal was just talking about, right? It limits their ability to spend money they don't have, because they have to have gold to back the money. So if you want to promise shit to people and get elected, or you want to go blow people up on the other side of the world, because that's a lot of fun, then you need a way to fund that. And so over time, what's happened in the US is that it's been detached from any actual physical asset, and now it's pure fiat money. And the problem is the US is the world's reserve currency, so everyone else's currency is also, it's basically attached to the US. And once the US currency was detached from gold, now nothing is attached to anything.
That was in the 70s, right?
It was finally detached in the 70s under, was it Nixon?
Yeah.
No? Yeah. But it started in like 1913 or something. It started earlier.
Well, the Federal Reserve Act was passed in 1913, February 23rd, 1913. But like you said, you were still able to, we still had the gold window open until Nixon. But prior to that, in the 19th century, as you were describing, people would actually take physical gold and silver to a secure location that was referred to as a bank, and they would deposit it, and then the banker would issue you a receipt for, if you have, $100 worth of gold, and then you could take that receipt, and what they would do is they would just, instead of walking around with a brick of gold on you, walk around with this receipt and say, "Okay, here's your money, proof that I have $100 worth of gold on deposit at so-and-so's bank." And, there would be bank runs and stuff like that. And it was not nearly as bad as it is today with central banking. But those were just, I hesitate to use the word normal market occurrences, because even a lot of those bank runs and recessions were caused by the state. You know, Rothbard has a good thesis, The Panic of 1819, where he goes into that a little bit more.
Right. So, Carrie, I don't want to treat you like a remedial child, but I know your eyes tend to gloss over when
Please
money
do.
comes up. So are you following all of this? Are there
I'm
questions?
following a little bit of it. So I have a friend who's a Bitcoin enthusiast, and he got me into it a year and a half ago or so. And he gave me a 2-hour Bitcoin for Dummies call, a conversation.
Excellent.
Yeah. So I'm wondering now if he's an agorist or crypto anarchist, because he basically talked to me about Bitcoin as not an investment thing, but more of a, like, he doesn't believe that our vote matters. He said, this is my vote. Like taking my money out of fiat currency and putting it into the new technology, to blockchain, is the way that I vote.
Absolutely. Whether he knows it or not, he is participating in agorism. 100%. You know, that's the name of the game right there.
Right. Now, what do you think about, so my big concern, I mean, I love the idea of blockchain. My big concern was always, at the end of the day, we're run by this, we've got people in power who've got guns, and if I want to buy something, they're going to point a gun at me when I have to convert my blockchain into milk at the store, and force, right now they're actually forcing you to account for all the blockchain transactions, which I think you can obfuscate by going through some anonymizers, but most people don't. And so you can actually trace all of that pretty well. What's your thought on kind of the future of blockchain? Because do guns win in the end, or does blockchain survive?
I think technology wins. The market always wins. And we look at tools that we have available today, like I think you mentioned, for example, Cash Shuffle, where it'll actually take the funds in your wallet and just send them around so that the funds aren't actually traceable. Because that's, a big problem, is that if you and I make a black market transaction and they realize what you've done, they could go into your wallet and look at the money and look where it's been and look where it went, and they could seize those funds. But with Cash Shuffle, they're not able to do that, thank God. But regardless, any of these technological problems that we come across, we're going to win. We're going to win. The state is a fish out of water right now, just kind of flopping around, gasping for air, even though it doesn't seem like that. Victory is inevitable. Liberty will always win. We're going to win. And it's frankly a matter of time and whether or not they want to go down without a fight or not. But blockchain is, I'm super, super excited about blockchain. People always talk about using it to, we've been discussing using it to subvert the Federal Reserve, but there are so many other applications for the blockchain. Like I've been really big on tokenization of everything.
Yep.
I think that, Rothbard speaks about compulsory cartelization, and, just as we've been describing how the Fed is a cartel, and I am of the belief that tokens will successfully disintermediate FINRA and the SEC, which will free up an enormous amount of capital for people all around the world. And I think it's going to be absolutely huge, and I don't think people really understand that yet. One of my friends I've had him on the show, he's a developer at Bitcoin.com, Gabriel Cardona. He uses the term Tocambrian explosion.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And I think it was, I forget the guy's name. He's the head of NASDAQ, or he was the head of NASDAQ. And he says that, he said that as of now, 100% of stocks and bonds could be tokenized. And in 5 years, 100% of stocks and bonds will be tokenized. So I'm really pushing for this. I think we also there's some other things that go into it. We need decentralized exchanges that are token specific. But as of right now, there's nothing stopping a small business owner from tokenizing their business rather than issuing shares. And there isn't a goddamn thing that the FINRA cartel can do about it. And I think that's a great thing.
Yeah.
Can is it too much to ask that way? Because I'm just sitting here thinking, you asked if my eyes are glazing over, and I do have the kind of,
yes,
but I'm kidding. I do have the benefit of that 2-hour conversation, so I can follow along, but I'm wondering would it be okay if you just do that explanation of what Bitcoin is, like for dummies? Like because I don't think people realize there's like a limited number of Bitcoin, right? And that's, and the guy who created it is some mysterious Is he mysterious? There's some story behind that.
Yeah, no one knows who it actually is.
Is this
Sal,
too much?
I mean, you want to give a quick overview, Sal? I mean,
Insofar as who Satoshi is, that's a very controversial topic that I've dipped my toes in that water before, and I've gotten bit by the sharks. I don't know. I really have no idea. I've got my own theories. I had Craig Wright on the show. He claims to be Satoshi. A lot of people think it's Hal Finney. I don't believe it is. I think if you go back and you read the original Bitcoin Talk forums, I think it's pretty clear it's not Hal. I also think that I think it's probably more than one person, because Satoshi refers to himself as we a couple times in that forum, in the very original first posts. So, I mean, who it is, I don't know. If I was going to take a random shot in the dark, there is a professor in Europe, I believe, who's working right now with Cardano, and his name is I can't remember his first name. His last name is Chakravarty. I follow him on Twitter, and I've become increasingly suspicious of him. But who knows? And I think it's probably better that we don't know, because if we did, then every time there's a debate in the crypto space, everybody would turn to him and say, "Well, what's the answer? What's the correct answer? Should we raise the block? Should we not? Should we roll back the chain like CZ just said, or should we not?" So.
Yep.
But like, what is Bitcoin itself? Because I think explaining it to it's still like there was a day a year ago or so where I thought my phone had been hacked and I'd lost my Bitcoin, and I was imagining having to talk to the police, and I was like, well, in my bread wallet, I forgot the magic numbers, and then my magic money was gone, and just like the idea of explaining it to someone who doesn't know what it is, and so it's digital currency. In the most layman's terms, digital currency. Every transaction, it happens in the public square, right? So that it's recorded. So there's no, there's accountability because everyone sees every transaction. Is that right?
I mean, even the definition could be controversial, right? So
okay.
the first line of the white paper says that it's a peer-to-peer electronic cash. That idea has kind of changed over time, and now we're calling it a store of value. Depends on who you ask, though. Essentially, all it is an electronic form of currency, a digital form of currency that does not require a trusted third party. But I'm sure the cryptographer can give a better answer than I can.
Well, the analogy I would use, Carrie, is so we think of ancient cultures as always using like goats or salt or whatever to exchange as exchanges of value. But I believe there's a few examples of ancient cultures where instead of actually having a physical thing that they would pass around in like the equivalent of the town square, there would just be a public ledger, and they would write down, Carter got 2 chickens from Carrie. So he's down 2 chickens, right? Carrie gave someone else a sheep or whatever it is, right? And it was public. So, and you could see if someone was changing it. So it was very difficult to like change your public status and be like, no, Carter paid his chickens back, right? Like I couldn't really get away with that because it was in front of everyone, right? And so really, if I really simplify the blockchain, that's the best analogy that I use for like layman, which is like, instead of it being, there's not a Bitcoin that you send to someone else. There's a publicly, it's publicly secure, we'll say, by the fact that it's very difficult to change unless you control most of the network. So let's just assume that you can't really change it unless you control most of the Bitcoin network yourself. There's this public ledger that's immutable. And when you do a transaction, if you send Sal money, all you're doing is writing an entry in that ledger that's like, I owe Sal blankety blank. That's all that's happening. And Sal, to show that he's got it, it's like, because you don't write I owe Sal, you write wallet number 234 gives wallet number 123 this, right? And so he just says like, yeah, he doesn't even have to show that he owns wallet 123. He just, when he has to go spend it, then he's like, well, I have access to wallet 123, so I'm going to say wallet 123 assigns it to 456, right? And that's kind of how it works. You're not sending an actual coin around. You're just updating a large Excel spreadsheet in the cloud, kind of.
Professor Abdullah Tansel he's here in New York at CUNY, and he teaches computer science. And the way he told me to think about it was, he says that the blockchain is a marriage between databases and cryptography. And I think that's a really pretty solid definition.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that the cryptography comes into play by preventing changing of that ledger that's out in the cloud, right? That's where the crypto comes into play. Right?
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys. I didn't mean to derail for too long, but
No, that's helpful. If you needed it, probably other people needed it as well. But then the concept of blockchain, Sal, as you were talking about, has expanded beyond just currency. Why don't you explain like what tokenization is and what else the blockchain is useful for? Because I think maybe people don't understand that. We just talked about money, but as you mentioned, it's kind of grown beyond that.
Well, they're using the blockchain for all sorts of things, right? There's BitNation, where they're trying to, rather than, you can actually sign up to become a citizen of BitNation, and they're going to be the government, and they're going to help try to provide basic services via the blockchain. But for counter-economic purposes, I'm mainly focused on disintermediating the Federal Reserve and tokenization. So tokenization, essentially, rather than, when you take your company public, rather than issuing shares and applying to the SEC for this super expensive, long, complicated registration process, you're essentially begging them for permission to be subjected to their guidelines for the rest of your life. So that's not the most appealing decision that a business owner is going to make. But now you don't have to. Now you can instead issue tokens. And if you want to issue 1 million shares or 1 million tokens, you can. And it's super, super simple. So I just put out an article yesterday on the New Libertarian blog about SLP tokens in Electron Cash, which is runs on top of Bitcoin Cash. And it's one of the easiest. It's so simple that I think even Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez could probably get this done properly. I mean, you want to talk about foolproof? I mean, you can't screw this up.
So wait a minute. This is. Sorry, go ahead. I don't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Now I'm going to say explain it to me like you would explain it to AOC.
Okay. So rather than issuing shares of your company, you issue tokens, and then you could distribute those tokens to investors, friends, family, whoever. That's why I said it's so important to have a decentralized exchange that's token specific, because normally if you issued shares of your company and you went public on NASDAQ or S&P or something like that, you would need to find a broker. The broker is going to push your shares to their investors and stuff like that. So now you can issue tokens on the blockchain, but we don't have that broker to distribute these funds. That's why we need an exchange, right? So Patrick Byrne, an excellent libertarian, has created T0, which is a token-specific exchange, but it's highly centralized. So FINRA went up to him right away and with their hand out and give me my money. And, thank God Patrick Byrne has a shit ton of money, so he did. But that's not useful for us. It's not useful for counter-economic purposes. So we have these decentralized exchanges. And I'm hoping and praying and waiting for some agorist out there to create one of these DEXs that is specific for tokens, that only allows you to trade tokens, whether they're ERC20 tokens or SLP tokens, whatever the case may be. And I think that when we get those two combinations of things, we're going to be in a much better place. There's an article by Per Bylund on LouRockwell.com where he discusses counter-economics in depth, and he identifies two types of counter-economics: vertical counter-economics and horizontal counter-economics. So horizontal counter-economics comes from Sam Konkin and this book, and basically all that is peer-to-peer unregulated trade. And vertical counter-economics comes from that book. That's community.
What is that book?
That's Community Technology by Karl Hess. And horizontal counter-economics is basically just creating local production facilities that bypass state regulation. So what Per Bylund says is that when we combine these two strategies, the horizontal and the vertical strategies, we really get the most powerful synthesis that the state really can't, they have a difficult time fighting back against that. And we can see that in terms of Bitcoin, right? So the miners are basically the local production facilities creating the money. And then me and you, every time we trade the Bitcoin, we're participating in the horizontal aspect of things. Same thing goes with 3D printers and printing guns, right? A 3D printer is an excellent example of a local production facility that bypasses state regulation. Now, when you take your, whatever it is that you're 3D printing that's on the black market, I wouldn't know, and you take those items and you distribute them to your friends and family.
But you've heard about it.
Yeah, I've heard about it. I've seen videos. But when you combine those two things, what can the state do about it? Nothing. I'm sure they can arrest you if they find out what you're doing and stuff like that, but it makes it very difficult for them to fight back.
Right. Do you got that, Carrie? Are you good?
I think I'm good. No, I'm kidding. I would need to, I need to read. What was the first book you held up?
This is the New Libertarian Manifesto. That's by Sam Konkin. That is, this is probably the best book on Goreism that I could think about right now. There's also a book I don't have with me by J. Neil Schulman called Alongside Night. And that book describes the Agorist revolution. And it's also the book that inspired Ross Ulbricht to create the Silk Road. So that book you can actually get for free. And it's actually a movie too, which is also available for free on YouTube. I think it's got, who's the guy who played Hercules? Remember back in the day?
Oh, crap.
He's in the movie. Kevin Sorbo. Kevin Sorbo. He's like one of the big names in the movie.
So just to, I'm going to try and anticipate Carrie concerns. So I think to a lot of people, the idea of a minimal government or even no government is really scary because they view this as like, oh my God, who's gonna prevent people from just running around murdering everyone, and what chaos will ensue? And I don't want to place the burden of arguing against that all on you, but I'm sure you get that frequently. What do you tell people when that's their big concern?
Well, look around. We have now is chaos, right? We have police shooting children, 7-year-old girls. They're grenading 7-year-old girls, strangling people over a 5-cent tax for cigarettes. They're running people over for doing graffiti. They're murdering God only knows how many people on the other side of the world every day. They've got wars in a whole host of countries. This is chaos. This is the bad side. Anarchy is, to me, is ironically is order. Another, I hate to keep throwing books out there and keep deferring to books, but Bob Murphy has a great book called Chaos Theory, where he really goes into all the specific details of how it would work. And the one takeaway I have from that book is that in an anarcho-capitalist society, things might even be more tightly regulated than they are today, but it would just be in a voluntary fashion rather than with the government putting a gun to your head and telling you what to do. We would have things like insurance companies with super high premiums on risky behavior and things like that. But what we have today is chaos and anarchy and voluntarism and not aggressing on people. That's what we should be striving for.
Yeah, it's the ultimate peaceful outlook on life, which is, I don't want to point a gun at you. Don't point a gun at me. Let's just agree.
So do you not believe in the importance of having like national security, or are those things? Oh, okay.
No, not at all. In fact, when any job that you give to the government, they're gonna fuck it up. And we saw how seriously they take our security on 9/11, right? So they have a monopoly on providing protection, and they didn't, right? There's 3,000-4,000 dead people on 9/11. What I always like to ask people is, imagine if you were an entrepreneur at the head of an insurance company and you had policies out on all the skyscrapers in Manhattan on 9/11. You would be incentivized voluntarily to provide protection for Lower Manhattan, right? Because if those buildings go down, you're going to have to pay out hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, right? So if you were this entrepreneur in this insurance company, chances are you would have had an armada sitting off the coast of Manhattan waiting for something like this to go down. And you probably would have stopped it before it happened because you don't want to pay out that enormous, you don't want to have that enormous payout on your hands. The state has no accountability to the market. So as far as they're concerned, oops, 4,000 dead people. Sorry, we'll try better next time. In the market, if your insurance company let this happen, you would say, when you rebuild your buildings, you would say, I'm never going to go with that insurance company ever again because they've provided such terrible protection services. I'm going to go with company B instead. Now, company B is going to say, well, look what happened. I don't want to do that. Let's do things better than the way it was done in the past.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that's a lot for me to wrap my head around. You should know 2 years ago, I was a full-on SJW. I've made a lot of changes in the past 2 years. This is almost too much.
Well, Goreism is it's the most radical form of anarchism. So you're coming to the full spectrum now.
Yeah, it's as far away as you can get from totalitarian SJWism.
Yeah.
So we're beyond libertarian here.
Absolutely.
For this conversation. Yeah, it's always funny to me when people are like, well, without governments we wouldn't be safe, and it's like, have you looked at the death count in the past
newspaper?
Like, yeah, just go take a look. Even just their own citizens, not even counting the wars.
Yeah, right.
It's astronomical. I mean, the number of Einsteins that we have lost is just unbelievably tragic.
Yes.
We've probably lost the cure to cancer 80 times over.
Absolutely. That's such an important point that no one really ever considers that. How many people were murdered by the state, or how many people's parents or grandparents were murdered by the state? They never came to fruition. That would have solved theories in physics and, like you said, all kinds of problems, medical issues, technological innovations. They really are the biggest. To me, the state is evil. I think it's synonymous with evil, and anarchy is synonymous with good.
I think the fundamental difference, honestly, between statists and non-statists is, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just coming up with this on the fly. It seems to me one of the fundamental differences is non-statists view people as assets and statists view people as liabilities.
Absolutely.
That's the difference, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Look at us they think that we're expendable.
Yeah, and we're something that has to be protected against and managed and groomed or whatever it is. And non-statists are like, no, people are great. People invent things and they're assets to the world.
Yeah, or just like the argument we were just discussing. Well, there would be chaos, and how would you protect property, and how would you do this, and how would you do that? Because first of all, a lot of these ideas are new to a lot of people, and you can't blame those individuals. But there are some people who are, you can show people the door, but you can't make them walk through it. So there are some people who are always going to fall back to what they know. Yeah, and that's okay. That's okay. They're going those people, honestly, to tell you the truth, as time goes on, they're going to die off, and it's going to be only the liberty-friendly people that remain.
Well, it depends how we raise our children too, right? Because if you raise your children, I'm a parent, so this is something I had to think about when I became a dad, right? If you raise your children in an environment that teaches them that might is right and I'm right because I'm the authority, then they really will grow up to be very accepting of state authority. But if you raise them in an environment that's like, look, we have to negotiate everything. I don't have any more rights than you do. Yes, I'm responsible for your health and safety and blah, blah, blah. And obviously you wean them off of, you still grab them before they run into traffic when they're 3. I'm not suggesting that you just try and negotiate with them out of traffic, right? But if you raise them in this environment where people's rights and individuality is respected and they are negotiated with, I think it becomes I think they're inoculated against the state. It becomes very difficult for them to accept that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has a new law that they have to follow.
I disagree. I have a total.
Disagree.
Well, no, I mean,
counter argument.
No, I agree, but with the caveat. Yes, don't raise your kids like you're the father in Footloose, right? Like, don't be like you're saying, the authoritarian might is right.
Right.
But my friends or former friends, a lot of them are raising their kids like the SJW friends. They're raising their kids sort of like the kid raises itself. The kid teaches me.
Oh, that's not what I'm talking about at all.
Okay, but those kids are going to look to the state.
Well, because they never grow up.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with that. Okay.
So they need state daddy to take over when daddy is gone because they never grew up.
Right.
What I'm talking about is teaching your kids, like the non-aggression principle. Sal, you brought it up. The non-aggression principle is pretty simple to teach a 5-year-old. It's a no-brainer. Kids get it, and it's very easy. Right?
5-year-olds get it, but for some reason, congressmen and senators don't, and that's the problem.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think that 2 points as far as kids go. Number one, don't hit your kids. You know what I mean? People need to stop hitting their children. If you hit your children, then they're going to grow up thinking that force is the way to solve their problems, right? And I'm a huge nerd. I'm a big history and philosophy and economics kind of guy. So I remember from one of Plato's books where Socrates was arguing with Thrasymachus over might versus right, and Socrates proved him wrong definitively. But for some reason, like we're saying, congressmen can't understand this concept. They think because they haven't. You go to a municipal court. This is where you can really see this in action. Whoever has the guns, they're going to tell you what to do, and they're right because, well, we know that what you're being charged with is immoral. But guess what? We have the guns, and I don't know what to tell you about it. Sorry, you got to pay us. Yeah. The other thing, as far as kids, who I want to mention briefly is state schools. I know this is so hard for people because everyone's being robbed to fund these teachers unions, these crooked teachers unions, public employee unions. I think that if you can, private school is a much better option. But if you can, the best possible thing you do for your children is to homeschool them and keep them away from these indoctrination camps, because this is where they're learning the state's version of history. I'm sorry, the state's version of history in air quotes.
It's herstory, Sal.
Yeah, right. Her story. Sorry. But yeah, that's where they learn Keynesian economics, and they learn to worship Lincoln and Roosevelt and all of these monsters and Churchill. So, and some places you can't even take your kids out of these schools. I know it's very difficult unless you have like a religious objection or things. But those are just a couple things you could do to make sure your kids don't grow up as violent statists.
Yeah, no, I want to have a whole show about education because, I used to be of the mindset that homeschool was for weirdos, and like religious people who wanted to deny evolution or whatever it was. And I'm telling you now, as a dad, homeschool is the best option. If you can figure out a way to homeschool your kids, because even a lot of private schools, they're infected by the culture. They're not as much of a prison system as a lot of the public schools are, but they're still infected by this horrible culture. They're still rewriting history. They're still teaching Keynesianism, and they're not much better philosophically.
Plus, the private schools have higher rates, I think, of like suicide and cutting and all that stuff.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
That's because you get killed if you're weak in the public school, so you don't survive enough to cut yourself. Yes.
Well, no, I'm like you. Carter knows this, but I used to be of the same opinion that, homeschoolers, at least the people I met who homeschooled when I was younger, when I was in college, or were religious in nature. And some of them I used to work at a primate center, and we used to get homeschool groups who would come in and very specifically tell us, tour guides, that we couldn't talk about evolution or even talk about primate characteristics because they didn't want the kids putting 2 and 2 together and being like, hey, we have fingernails too. But so that was my impression of it. And then I think 2 things happened. I think my impression changed, but I also think that the type of people who are homeschooling has changed. Like the demographic has changed.
I think more people are waking up to, I can't even call it a school system at this point. I think more people are waking up to the indoctrination of their children. Again,
it is just that, because they don't really learn much.
No, they learn how to pass these standardized tests to get their teachers a raise next year.
Yeah. And they're learning the social justice ideology. I mean, I learned it in college. They're learning it in kindergarten now at some schools. And California just passed something. Yeah, they just, I was reading the headline today. I haven't read the article yet, but California, where I used to live, just passed something where they're going to start overhauling the entire sex education program, starting with the age of 5.
And I think, I forget what state it was in, but somebody had sent me something on Twitter that was a screenshot of their children's history book that showed the Bill of Rights. And they completely changed the wording for the Second Amendment to make it seem like it was specifically designed so that the state can have guns.
Oh, really? Wow.
It's the most corrupt, crooked stuff that I've ever come across. Again, not to drop books on everybody, but School Revolution by Ron Paul and Education, Free and Compulsory by Murray Rothbard. I can't even call it a book. It's only like 50 or 60 pages. 2 excellent readings on the subject of education.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, I've seen them misplace or delete commas in the Second Amendment in attempts to do it, but I haven't seen like a complete rewording. That's
scary.
That's
scary. Yeah.
Yeah. Can we switch subjects for a minute? Because this is deep, or at least very impactful to people who haven't been exposed to this yet. I want to look at memes because I really do think you're a meme god. And I just want to share some of these memes, and then I want to talk to you about the art of meming a little bit. So let's see. I'm going to describe some of them or maybe have you describe them because we also turn this into an audio only podcast, so people might not know what they are. So we talked about AOC, right? I assume by now people have seen the garbage disposal video she made. This is just a brilliant meme. I love this meme. Do you want to describe it?
Sure. So there's basically different formats for different memes, and I could have done this one in a Drake format. I think I forget. I stole this one, but I forget from who. But you could put the same input the same information to a different format. It would be the same exact meme. Basically, this is just the guy walking down the street with his girlfriend, and he notices another girl who looks pretty cute, and he looks back, and his girlfriend looks at him like, "What the fuck, man?" So, yeah, there's all different formats that we use, and this is a nice, easy, simple format that I really love.
Yeah, and so the boyfriend in this case is AOC, and
yes.
You wrote garbage blank posals, and his girlfriend is dis, and the one he's looking at is pro, which is great. It's just this beautiful like commentary on her, I don't know, on her proposals, and it's funny.
And her stupidity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and her stupidity, right? So that's an easy one. Let me find. There's another one that I shared with Carrie that she loves. Also, I think maybe I just explained it to you, Carrie. So.
Oh no, you shared this.
I shared this with you. Can you just for the audio only audience, Sal? Can you tell us what we're looking at?
Sure. Yeah. So it says the combination of colors red and yellow make people hungry. Then there's the McDonald's logo, the Burger King logo, the Tide logo for the SJW. Sorry, Carrie, and the hammer and sickle. It's all in red and yellow. So of course, Tide Pods make some of our public school victims a little bit hungry, and everybody's hungry under communism. So I think this was a pretty successful meme. If I remember correctly, this one went viral.
This is one of my favorites. This is a great meme.
Okay, here's something about these two, the first one and this one. You put in multiple jokes in one. Like this one's got the dark humor with communism, but it's got the eating Tide Pool reference or Tide Pod references. And the other one, which is, like you said, it's making fun of her stupidity, but also her proposals. It's like,
that's the power of memes. That's why people laugh, it's so funny and stuff like that. And it is, and that's great. But there's a lot of power behind memes that I don't think people are realizing, because nowadays when we consume information, we're consuming it in instantaneous bits, right? Only nerds like me want to sit and read a book for 2 days or something like that, or watch a documentary for 2 hours. So what people do now is when you're scrolling through Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whatever the case may be, you get these little snapshots that if you can't consume the information in a few minutes or a few seconds, then you just keep moving.
Yep. So this is I like that you're recognizing that the memes are more than just a joke. Because I mean, look, I look at them to laugh because they're funny, right?
But they're effective.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I've heard it said that the left can't meme. I don't think actually conservatives can meme very well unless they're making fun of the left. Why is that?
So there is an inherent relationship between logic and memes. There's another article on my blog called "The Art of Memetic Warfare," and there's an inherent relationship between logic and memes. So the more, in other words, you look at these formats, all these different formats. There's thousands of them. Basically, those formats correspond to logical schemata. So if you look at like formal logic, which is another aspect of agorism, and you look at how arguments are constructed in different forms, these formats are just visual representations of these argument forms. That's all they are. So if you have a good argument and you input the information into those formats, you're going to have a successful meme. But if you don't have any logic to your arguments, if your arguments are inherently false and illogical, you're not going to be able to put that in meme format. So that's why you see things like when the left tries to make a meme, you have like 2 paragraphs of text and then 1 picture that doesn't even relate. Or the same thing goes for the right. You know what I mean? They can't, it's very difficult for these people because their arguments are crap. They're garbage. But only anarcho-capitalists and agorists who have a much higher threshold for logic are the ones who can actually put together a witty meme.
It is interesting. I mean, I don't want to chalk it up to my own bias, but I follow people on the left and I follow people on the right, and maybe it's my own bias, but it is true that it seems like only the libertarians and beyond are the only ones that seem to consistently share memes that are actually good and funny. And I don't know if that's just my own bias, but I don't know, Carrie, what's your experience? Do you see that?
Well, I used to work in comedy, by the way, Sal, and I think people on the left have lost their ability to laugh. They've lost their sense of humor in a way. Maybe they never had it and I just didn't realize it because I didn't have one either. But they've put ideology above humor. So how can you be funny if the priority in any joke or meme is your ideological message? They're putting ideology above like your logic. So I think that if you're serving the god of ideology, you can't serve the god of humor. I don't know, but you can't.
But you can argue that some of Sal's memes, like the Burger King and Tide Pod communism McDonald's one that we just looked at, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can argue that he's putting a thought or philosophy in front of, like, it's not separate from the humor. It is the humor.
It is the humor, but he's criticizing something, and he's making fun. It's almost like this irreverent, what's the word? Just like a very cheeky kind of making fun of something you're not supposed to make fun of. And
Absolutely.
That doesn't happen on the left. You can't do that. They follow the rules of what you're supposed to make fun of.
You know, there's I can't think of the name of the paper right now, but the military has caught on to this. The U.S. military, unfortunately, has caught on to this, but I think it's okay. They've put out a couple papers now on memetic warfare and memes and how effective they are in changing public opinion. And if you read the papers, what they've concluded is that, look, we, the government, have to get into this because this is what's influencing people. Just like I was explaining, people want to consume information in snapshots nowadays. Yep. So they're trying to get on the meme game. I don't think it's going to work because, this is something else that they've noticed, is the relationship between logic and memes, but they don't have any logic. So they can try all they want. It's not going to work for them. They're just, as far as I'm concerned, this is great because they're expending resources into an area that won't pay off. So I'd rather them waste money on memes and use money to bomb children. So as far as I'm concerned,
it's a better use of taxpayer dollars.
Yeah, absolutely.
Funny memes.
Yeah.
So I've noticed they're cracking down on memes, or it seems to me that that's the case. So the NPC meme, which was very effective, it was hilarious and effective. And so then what did Twitter do? They started banning it.
Right, because you're calling them out. You're showing how stupid these people are, and we use their platform. We that's true. We use their platform, and when we insult Jack, he has the right to tell us to go fuck yourself.
So do you think you're not long for Twitter, or are they going to go after you?
I don't know. I don't really hold back. I can't think of too many instances when that's not true actually. There's been a couple times where I've said, maybe I'll save this for one of my smaller accounts, but more often than not, I'd say about 85-90% of the time, there's nothing that's out of bounds for me. So if they delete me, they delete me. What am I going to do? It's the way the cookie crumbles, I guess. But if people want some more spicy memes, they can follow me on Instagram at Sal The Agorist with periods in between all the words. So Sal the Agorist, and that's where I post some more spicy stuff.
The thing about them like cracking down on memes, because they do realize how effective it is. So when Donald Trump won in 2016, I was really floored and spent a long time trying to figure out why he won. And I'm sure you've heard this, but I've heard him referred to as the first president that was memed into office. And so, that's kind of simplifying the reasons why he was elected. But I do believe they recognize the power of memes in affecting culture, which affects politics now. So I think they're really trying to, I don't know, just shut down humor, shut down effective memes because of the effect it has. I don't know.
Right.
That was a circular. I said effective because it's effective. Anyway.
Well, Trump had a nice group of meme lords supporting him from 4chan who were, I don't know if you guys are probably familiar with the Pepe the Frog.
Yeah.
And Pepe was really big in Trump's election. And now they're trying to bring him back for 2020, but they're just putting a rainbow colored wig on his head now. And I guess that's almost to mock the SJWs. I mean, it is funny, but the Pepe guys, they're just as bad as far as I'm concerned. These are nationalists. These are wall builders. These are people who are also economically illiterate, just in a different sense.
Yeah. And you've now got the Andrew Yang meme gang going on.
Man. Yang gang.
Yeah. And you're seeing a lot of that. I think actually one of your memes was an Andrew Yang tweet, and you just said, fuck it, make it 2000.
Yeah. Well, here's another one, though. UBI is such a joke that it's so simple to meme. But the memes really, again, I'm going to drop another book on you guys. Chapter 10, Science, Technology, and Government by Murray Rothbard. Chapter 10, he deals with automation. You read Chapter 10, and you'll never, ever, ever support Andrew Yang or UBI ever again.
This is good. I've gotten more book recommendations out of discussion than I thought. So
I'm a huge nerd. I apologize.
No, it's great.
I love it.
I really appreciate it. Yeah. I don't know. I could probably just thumb through your memes and ask you about them all day long, but I don't know how.
Pick one more funny one.
Would I be doing that? What?
Pick one more. I want to see one more.
All right. Let's see. Well, actually, there's a pair that I want to pick because you memed both sides deservedly on this.
Yes, so, I know what you're going to say.
I'll stick it up here. So you've got on the left, we've got a meme that says it's the classic picture of the guy like wiping sweat off his forehead, looking at two different buttons and not knowing which one to push. And on the left, it's a guy with a MAGA hat, and the two different buttons are Twitter can't refuse anyone's service, and bakers can refuse service since it's a private company, which is great because it encapsulates this idea that like bakers shouldn't be regulated, but Twitter should be regulated.
It's perfect.
And then on the right, though, the exact same graphic, minus the MAGA hat, with a label that says liberals, and the two buttons are bakers must bake cakes for everyone, and Twitter can ban anyone because it's a private company. And it's a great example of both sides being gridlocked in this cognitive dissonance. And yeah, I love this meme.
Comes down to consistency. It really comes down to logical consistency, and neither the Republicans or the Democrats, the conservatives or the liberals have it. And I firmly believe that agorism is the only political or economic philosophy that is logically consistent to the end. And that even goes for anarcho-capitalism, right? If you take anarcho-capitalism to its full extent, we're with Pinochet, we're throwing people out of helicopters, right? That's the full extent.
I'm actually not sure what the difference between agorism and anarcho-capitalism is. So maybe you can tell me, because I just kind of figure once you get to anarchy, you're at voluntarism, and like you could call it anarchy whatever you want, but it's no government.
Very, very similar, the two ideas. Agorism, we believe in using counter economics, and sometimes you'll see anarcho-capitalists participating in politics. We don't do that.
But that's a method to get to the same. The goal is the same. It's the journey there.
Absolutely, 100%, without a doubt. It's just agorism is a strategy to achieve anarcho-capitalism.
Okay.
Another one of the more obvious differences, probably the most obvious difference would be in the motivation for entrepreneurial activity. So anarcho-capitalists, they engage in entrepreneurial activity for the purpose of profit seeking, which is great. We believe that, we understand economics and how the market directs resources and stuff like that. Agorists don't do that. We engage in entrepreneurial activity for the sole purpose of subversion, right? When we engage in entrepreneurial activity, we are trying to dismantle the state. So there's really, that's probably the most obvious glaring difference that I can think of.
So I guess when I stopped being a Silicon Valley entrepreneur and started doing Unsafe Space with Carrie, I switched sides. I'm certainly not making profit off
yeah, right.
anything we're doing. All right. That makes sense. I meant to ask you actually, what are some of the memes that have been most controversial or people have gotten most angry about that you've put out?
Oh, man. Well,
by the way, Carter, I think the video's stuck on you, just so you know.
Oh. Well, I am gorgeous, but let's move that off. There we go. Okay. Sorry about that. Because I had to stick it there for the memes, but yeah, all right.
The best one, the most controversial ones are usually the Chris Kyle memes. People really worship Chris Kyle, the guy from was it American Sniper or something like that. So they don't like it when I make fun of him. I had one recently about the Civil War. And it was this guy holding a girl down, and he was force feeding her something. I labeled the spoon. I labeled that as the Civil War was because of slavery, and I labeled the guy as the government and the girl as the people, because the Civil War was not about slavery, but that's what we're taught in public school. Right. So that one really, people have a hard time swallowing the fact that Lincoln was a tyrant. They have a real hard time swallowing that one, and I love touching people's buttons, especially on stuff like that. So that was Chris Kyle and Lincoln memes are usually they usually go over well.
I think the fact that people get so riled up about memes, banning the NPC meme and stuff like that. I mean, it hurts when you push here. It's like, okay, thanks for the info. Like,
right, exactly.
I guess I'll push there some more. Yes. Right. So
absolutely, and that they're wedded to these ideas because they're so emotionally connected.
Yeah,
so, like you said, the more they cry, the more I'm gonna hit harder. That's all.
Yeah, because you're hitting the right spot.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, awesome. Carrie, do you have any final questions for Sal? I've really enjoyed this, and like I said, I could just sit around and look at memes all day, but I don't know if that's productive.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it too. I think this was probably the most informative conversation we've had yet for me. So, and I appreciate the book. Maybe we could, when we put this up, we could just do a little book list at the bottom of every book he mentioned.
Yeah, I will definitely do that. And I will also try and find that meme. But yeah, Sal, I am slowly infecting Carrie with Anarchy.
I think I'm slowly infecting you with Jesus.
I strongly doubt it, but
That's how I get you.
Go ahead. You keep that up. But yeah, Sal, thank you for coming, and and chatting with us. It's been a pleasure, and it's been, like Carrie said, super, super informative. It's great to meet the meme guy and find out that he's a nerd with lots of great book recommendations. So
No problem, guys. Anytime. I'd love to come back on whenever you guys want me.
I think there's a million things we could probably have you back on to talk about. So
Yeah.
Do it. Yeah.
Thanks, man.
You got it. Thank you.
Cool.
Oh,
All
wait,
right.
where can people follow him?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I'll put that in.
SalTheAgorist.com. I'm on patreon.com/Sal Mayweather, Twitter @Sally Mayweather. I'm on Insta, Minds, Facebook, Snapchat. I'm all over the place. So all that stuff, you go to SalTheAgorist.com. You can find links to everything.
All right. SalTheAgorist.com. Cool. Well, thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Bye, guys.